All right, so let's talk a little bit about safety. One of the first things I want to mention, it may not sound that possible, but it's happened. And people run over their foot. And the craziest part about it is I'll never get it. I'll never understand it, but it's happened. Not to me, it's happened to people. So I want to say and stress, please don't run over your foot. That will definitely hurt your boss's work comp rating. E-mod rating is what they call it. But so here's the thing, there's a bumper around this machine. So, I mean, it's hard for your foot to get actually underneath of the tracks. So to run over your foot, you've really got to get it in there, you know, and you know, I could kind of see it maybe if you were rolling and you tripped and then you yanked it, but that's not ever been the case in the scenarios that we've seen. So I would say if you can ever make a choice on how you're running the machine, it's always better to run the machine away. So you're going from this pile to the next pile to the next pile. If you don't have to, don't run the machine backwards. That will save the likelihood of actually running over your foot if you can do such a thing. Because look at where I'm at. This is where I operate the machine. It's clearly offset from the machine. This is a brand new 2021 model, but even on the older units that this is kind of tucked in a little bit further, you're not typically operating back here or here. You know, you are typically running this machine out here, which is quite a ways away from it. So even if you're running backwards, it's still just so hard for me to understand how you can run over your foot, but you can, and it's happened. So safety, think about the possibility of running over your foot and just never do it. All right, so let's talk about another point on safety, our blind spot. So when you're running this machine, technically I can't see through that big engine unit. And sometimes when you're in these tracker rows, they're pretty close. So sometimes there's other obstacles down the road. So what I want to say safety-wise on this point is just be aware of your surroundings. If you're out in the middle of a huge utility scale solar farm, all you're doing all day long is driving piles, just be aware of who's coming in and out of your zone so that there's not someone that you didn't notice with a big bright safety vest on that you possibly run over. So that isn't a blind spot, always be aware. And the bigger blind spot scenario to think about is, well, I actually can't see what's directly in front of me and on the ground. So what if you left your laser receiver or a tripod or your lunchbox? Those have all been run over before, and I can speak from experience. Not that I did it, but I'm just saying. So it's great before you start running your row or before you are in the zone to really kind of think about and look down the channel of where you're going, where you're about to go, and just think about your blind spot, because it is there. So that's another point on safety. All right, so another point on safety is this beacon. I'm not going to say there's exact instructions on when and how and where to use this thing, because it is a bright beacon and it's not like you should have it on the entire time you're running the machine. Maybe in some areas that might be required. You just kind of have to take it by roll with it. But either way, what I like to do for this is run the machine anytime I'm crossing a road where I know I want as much exposure and awareness as possible, is have that beacon on. And a lot of job sites that you get on that are super large, they may not even let you cross the road without spotters and people stopping traffic to make sure, and it might be a big to-do, but I can say that if you're doing a small residential project with only 10 piles and you're trying to offload your trailer and you don't have anywhere to park or unload your machine, just turn the beacon on, and that's definitely going to give you as much exposure as possible. So not every scenario is a big utility scale solar site with all of the rigmarole with safety, but that is one thing that I would highly recommend, is using your beacon whenever you're crossing a road. All right, so another point of safety is just to do a daily safety checklist. There are a lot of generic safety checklists out there. You're going to be looking for things that could possibly be a safety hazard, and the number one thing that I've talked about in a couple other videos is loose bolts. These four right here in particular could be deadly, because that head could drop out whenever it's up high if it was loosening and you didn't notice it. But the bolts that I've seen come loose are typically around this area on the mast, because this thing generates a lot of vibrations. You may have wedge lockers to try to prevent the vibrations from backing bolts out, but it will happen. So keep your eye out for loose bolts. over the entire machine. You just want to look things over, make sure that you don't have a hydraulic line that looks like it was torn. Sometimes raising and lowering this hammer, the hydraulic hose can get hooked on something, and we've seen it in the past where just the abrasion over time or something getting hooked the wrong way can rip a hose or start to tear it. Just keep your eye out for that sort of thing throughout the day. Really, that's about the main things. These machines have grease points on them. And we've talked about the hammer is something that you, the rental customer, you have to take care of that daily, 2 to 3 times a day. But all of the other grease points, Solar Pile Driver Rents staff is going to be coming to the site and taking care of those. If you keep this thing for multiple months at a time, we're going to be out there doing the monthly routine maintenance stuff, the changing the oil, the grease points all over the machine everywhere else. But the one that you guys have to take care of daily is the hammer. Really, as far as that goes, there's not much else to check that you're really trying to keep your eye out for. But if you just go through that daily safety checklist, that is pretty much one more point of safety. All right, another point of safety, and don't think I'm a hypocrite here, is PPE, personal protective equipment. You've got to wear, this video is for instructional purposes only. So either way, disregard that aspect. But do note, when you're on a job site, they're gonna wanna see everything, especially the big utility scale job sites. You've got someone coming around the job site making sure you're wearing everything properly. But it's really for your own safety. In essence, the safety vest, high vis is what you have to wear. You have to wear a hard hat. You have to wear a hard hat with earmuffs, and double ear protection is required on some job sites that you get on. So you're wearing the earbuds and the hard hat muffs, eyeglasses, steel toe boots, gloves. That's the one I hate the most, just to be honest, because it's so annoying on a warm summer day. Some guy from OSHA is walking around trying to make sure you're proper. Well, that's one more thing to technically be checking off the list. So point of safety is wearing all the proper safety gear. All right, so what you're looking at is not a lightning rod. It's a pile driving piece of equipment called a GAYK HRE 4000. But apparently it can be a lightning rod if you're out in the middle of an open field and there is lightning in the background. So another point of safety is, and it's typical standard procedure anytime you see lightning in your vicinity, to shut the machine down, lay the mask back, then shut the machine down and wait 30 minutes until you don't see any more lightning. These machines can run in rain, in snow, in hail, and I've actually worked this machine off the coast of Virginia during a snow hurricane. It's called the snowpocalypse is what the locals called it. Literally whiteout conditions at like -14 degrees temperatures. It works fine. Everything works fine, except for your hands are cold. That's it. But apparently, whenever you can't see 15 feet past you, they shut the site down. So that's another weather condition that technically could shut you down. But the most important one is the lightning rod aspect of it. If you see lightning, shut it down for 30 minutes at least, and then wait till you're good to go. So another point.